Hi, everyone. This is Catherine Price, and this is the How to Feel Alive podcast. And I'm absolutely delighted about the conversation, to tell you about the conversation I'm about to have. I'm here with Cas Holman, who is many things, but one of the things she is the founder and chief designer of the toy company Heroes Will Rise. She's a former professor of industrial design at RISD. She's worked with companies around the world, including Nike, Disney Imagineering. I don't understand the difference between that and Disney, but I'm going to hold off on that question. Lego, as well as art museums around the world. But the thing I'm most excited about is that she's the author of a new book called Playful, How Play Shifts Our Thinking, Inspires Connection, and Sparks Creativity, that is out now. And Cass asked me if I would blurb this book, and I read it, and I loved it, and I blurbed it, and then I said, "Can I please talk to you when your book actually comes out? Because I really want to learn more and meet you because we've got a lot in common." So anyway, welcome, Cass. I'm so excited to get to have this conversation.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I'm really happy to be here. I'm also such a fan of your work and your thinking and the way you get ideas out into the world to inspire people to proactively help themselves be well with joy.
Be well with
Thank you
joy.
for that.
Yes, we do. We should all be well with joy. That could be a goal. So there are many different things I'd like to talk to you about, but I thought that we would focus on three because obviously your work has related a lot to kids in the past,
Mhm.
but I don't want to talk about kids. I want to talk about adults. And so what I'm hoping we could talk about today is how you define play, because I think that that's something that adults really struggle with, especially when it
Mhm.
pertains to themselves. Why you think it's so important for adults and why it's so hard. So I guess that's two things in one. And then I want to talk about some ideas you have for how we adults actually can do this, because that's something I
Mhm.
come up with, I come up against all the time when I'm talking about fun or just in conversations with people, and also for myself. I want to learn from you on
Yeah.
this.
Adults, I think that we actually play quite a bit more than we think we do or give ourselves credit for. Um, and I think for the most part, we don't necessarily know what adult play looks like, right? Which is part of why I think we play in ways that we might not have defined as play previously. There is like a kind of known a couple different kind of taxonomies of children's play, but in the book I define adult play because I do think it is different than children's play, and I think
Hmm.
as adults, um, it isn't a matter of like tapping into your inner child in order to find your play. Like, I want people to play where they are right now. I want you to tap into your inner play as a 42-year-old and and find out what your play is right now, like how play can be something that can help you be feel joy, celebrate, recover, build resilience, feel a sense of agency, or like I mentioned, like maybe some sense of control over some part of your life in a fairly uncertain time.
Hmm.
Um, so yeah, so to answer the question, I think adults play in a lot of ways, and the type of play that I'm talking about is free play.
Mm.
Or the type of play that I kind of advocate for and I'm writing about in the book is free play, which is play that is a set of behaviors that are freely chosen, personally directed, and intrinsically motivated.
I think you
Yeah.
also describe it as there's no planned activity and no predefined outcome. A moment when we got what sorry, a moment where we did what we wanted, got caught up in it, and didn't want to stop. So can you give a couple examples of what that free play looks like in children and then also in adults? Because I know in the book you have a really interesting prompt when you're asking people to reflect on some of their own childhood play memories, and that those often lead to memories of free play. So can you give us a couple of concrete examples and
Yeah.
kind of walk us through what that exercise might look like if anyone wants to try?
Yeah, and one thing that's helpful to understand is kind of it just I'll differentiate the difference between intrinsic motivation and extrinsic motivation
Yes,
because
please
that
do. There's
yeah,
too
that's
much
really
extrinsic.
critical.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very critical in free play, and it kind of helps you understand why free play is important right now. Like why now free play matters so much. I think we're all, not just children, but adults as well, we're all pretty out of touch with our intrinsic motivation
Hmm.
because not just like the way that school works is very extrinsically motivated, right? Like instead of learning because it's fun and we're curious and excited to explore and experiment, we learn because we want to get an A, right?
Yeah.
And we want to get a bunch of A's, or we want to get a good enough grades that then we move on to the next grade. So those are all extrinsic motivators, things like grades, taking tests, right? So we learn to a test, so it's all very outcome based.
Hmm.
Um, but we also like increasingly like we move toward like being good at things, being successful. We prioritize kind of efficiency over process, right? If something
Hmm.
takes longer, like we learn to do things the kind of the right way, the efficient way. We prioritize productive over, dilly-dally.
Heaven
So,
forbid.
right. And all of these things, like what we're moving, shifting away from in that is play, right? It's playful to kind of be curious and poke around at some things instead of just kind of getting straight to the destination, right? Or like take a new route because it's prettier. Like how often do people actually do that? It would take 10 minutes longer. Like no way. You're gonna take the most direct route even if it's like, loud and concrete, right?
Hmm. Right. Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Just follow the Google lady. You just got to follow the
right.
Google lady.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And even I think with adults, like even things like our step counters, right?
Uh-huh.
Like those are extrinsic motivators. It's adding an extrinsic motivation to something that like could just be walking because it makes your body feel good. Now we walk because
Yeah.
we want 10,000 steps. So we're disconnecting ourselves from what do I want? What like how will I get it? And like how can I figure out like what it is that I need and get it for myself, right?
Right.
And
Right.
very often that can happen through play. Um, and so you asked, so with children are wired for free play. And they will do it automatically. They are curious. They want to touch the thing. They want to smell the thing. They have to taste it, right? Using all of the senses to learn about everything all the time. Like that playing is learning. It's all same, right? They just like are hungry for all of it to
Hmm.
experience the world.
To kind
Um,
of explore it just for the sake of exploration,
exactly.
predefined
Yeah.
outcome, right?
And because it feels good to you think about
Mhm.
how exciting it is when you like discover something new or you find the lizard under the rock, right? Or you like, see the person in on the subway start to sit, whatever it is, whether you're a city kid or a country kid, like there are moments that are just like new discovery and they're infinitely exciting. And it's not about and now I'm going to name the lizard for the test, and then I'm going to get
Right.
an A so that I write. So that in school, we slowly shift from intrinsic to extrinsic motivation. We do things because we're good at them. Maybe, by sixth grade, if we're not going to star on the soccer team, then we stop playing soccer, whether or not we love it, right?
Right, 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 or singing or whatever. I mean, I think that's
Exactly.
such
Or
an
like, wow,
important
you're not
point.
really that coordinated, so we're going to take you out of ballet and try chess club instead,
Right, 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 right.
and so we start to like understand our value as what we're good at, right? Which isn't to say it doesn't feel good. Like I catch myself all the time being like, oh, well, that doesn't, maybe I shouldn't, like it feels good to be good at things because I think because we came up like this, but it also
Hmm.
feels good to just do things for the sake of doing them, whether or not you're successful, right?
Totally.
Part of it is kind of reframing success. Is the goal of a 10-year-old playing soccer that they become a professional soccer player, or is the goal that they like have fun, learn conflict resolution, run around and play with their friends, like start to understand impulse control. Like all of the things that are going on are also so that's kind of when we reframe success, and we can do that as adults too,
Right,
right? That the goal isn't maybe to, do the hike in record time. The goal might be to be outside and, chat with your friend. And if you slowed down a little bit and got less annoyed because she's walking really slowly,
right,
then you could have, right? So reframe success as, wait, what are we actually doing here? This is the once every 3 months that we hang out together. Let's just take it down a notch, forget about the top of the hill, and like have a nice hike together, right?
right, right,
Just
right,
take a walk.
right, right. I really like that. Switching how you
So,
define
yeah,
success. Yeah.
so that's a little bit the difference between intrinsic and extrinsic motivation. In adult free play, I think quite a few of us could use a little more tuning into kind of, what is it that I feel like I need right now? Do I need to do something quiet, or do I need to maybe move my body around more, right? Like we're like, "Ah, I feel, let's see, like, do I need to organize the silverware drawer? Do I need
Right.
to um, just go jump around, so there's kind of like first step is just like kind of tuning in, like what is it that I need?
Well, I think that's a really important point. One of my favorite parts of the book is when you talk about how a lot of adults, when they hear the word play, and I get this response a lot when I talk about fun, they
Mm-hmm.
kind of assume that they need to play in the same way they did when they were kids.
Mm-hmm.
And if that's not fun, doesn't feel good, they think I can't be playful. And you point out, well,
Yeah.
it makes sense that as a 42-year-old or whatever, a 51-year-old, that like maybe you don't want to play with a action figure, a doll, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
You don't want to play with a
Yeah.
stuffed animal in the same way. And you also talk about how people confess to you in hushed tones that they don't really like to play with their kids a lot of the time, which I totally hear because I never was really into make-believe play. And like when my daughter asked me to do that, I didn't.
Yeah.
But you point out that even though you don't love the term developmentally appropriate, the reason that doesn't feel good to us as adults is that it's not developmentally appropriate for us. That's like not actually
Yeah.
how we want to be
Yeah.
playing. So it's like, how do you tune in as an adult to what play means to you now, right? And I think what you're saying
Yeah.
is one of the first ways to do that is ask yourself, what do you want or need to do in this moment without any kind of external goal? Just like, what do you want and need? That's a way of having a playful attitude, if I'm understanding you correctly.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And maybe it relates to what your play was as a child.
Hmm.
It might be like the grown-up version of make believe where maybe you like, join an improv class or you just kind of like let yourself daydream into some I call it a possibility play.
Oh, that's interesting too, because I love fantasy real estate. Had never thought about that as make-believe play because I don't feel comfortable doing traditional make-believe play like charades or like,
Oh yeah.
but that's interesting. Um, yeah, and I love the idea of tapping into your inner playfulness by just making a practice of pausing and asking yourself, like, what do I want and need in this moment? Like, what would feel good is also a thing I think you're
Mm-hmm.
suggesting that we ask. Like, is it really going over and checking your email with this 5 minute break, or is that you want to go
My
around,
gosh.
stretch, or dance, or do look at the sky,
Yeah.
whatever it might be?
I call it attention play, and it's kind of like, like so either daydreaming in general, but like people watching and imagining things. As an industrial designer, I like I find details of places or things that are around me and try to understand how they were made.
Hmm.
Whether or not I want to be doing that, that's often what my attention is doing.
Uh-huh.
So there's this like kind of the play of noticing
Hmm.
that I think happens when we, don't habitually go to our phones,
Uh-huh.
and say rather than escaping the world around me, I'm going to hang out in the world around me and notice it and have some attention play here because it's quite rich and it helps me feel connected to it, you know?
Yeah, and there doesn't need to be a point to it, right? Like I grew up in New York City and I remember coming back as an adult and realizing, wow, I never really looked above the second story on all these buildings. Not because I was looking down at my phone. We didn't have smartphones then, but
Yeah,
just I hadn't. And then coming back as an adult and just almost making a game for myself of just looking, above the second story and just seeing all these amazing architectural details. It's not something I
yeah,
would immediately have thought of as that's a way of playing, but it's inter having read your book, I now think, that's like a little game you play with yourself or just a
yeah,
way of looking at the world that's not so outcome focused. Like there's no goal there. I'm just
right,
kind of
right.
curious. And curiosity actually was a word that you brought up again and again and again in the book. And I was curious about your thoughts on curiosity because I've realized in the past couple of months for myself, that's one of my absolute favorite words and my favorite
Mm,
characteristics in people. And I'm
yeah.
wondering what that word means to you or why it holds such resonance for you.
I think that uh someone once told me if you're interested, then you're interesting, which I think
That's
is very
interesting.
true,
Yeah.
and relates to curiosity. And I just think that there are a lot of really exciting, interesting, lovely, wonderful things around us. Like the world has a lot of love in it. And I think that we get there by curiosity. We connect to it, we find it, we see it and remember it by
Hmm.
being curious. with each other. Even if there's something that we have a reaction to, I'll like try to lead with curiosity,
Hmm.
in order to like, maybe there's probably something there that I don't understand. So let's see if this, let's go a little deeper and be curious about the thing this person said or um, where they're coming from in that statement.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah.
and I also think, um, like I said, there's increasingly we're given ways and we're choosing to escape the present, the
Hmm.
place we're in, not like literally the place. Um, and I think that it often relates to a state of overwhelm or just kind of people feeling like it's all a lot and so turning inward in order to kind of like protect, which
Hmm.
is understandable. But that can be even more isolating, which is I think part of the problem. So I think that again with kind of like attending to, looking around and noticing and being curious about what's around you can actually help you feel much safer in it. And so the
Hmm.
people around us, whether it's, the people at the gas station or the grocery store or the subway or the bus, like whatever your surroundings are, it's kind of
Hmm.
all we've got. And if we aren't curious about it, if we don't want to know it, I don't know how we'll ever be part of it or continue to like love it and take care of it and each other.
Hmm.
So that's where curiosity goes
Yeah.
for me.
Well, that leads me to the question I had about why you think that this is so important, because I'm sure you get the same pushback I get from people with fun, where it's like, okay, well, that sounds nice, right? But like,
Right.
look at what's going on in the world right now. How can you possibly prioritize play and fun? And
Yeah,
I have my answers to how I think it's actually absolutely essential that we do so. But I'm
exactly.
curious what you say, and I'm curious about
I
what you
know.
say in
I'm like,
response
nah,
to that.
you answer first. I want yours instead. No, I mean, yeah, play is, I think, if we can play together, we can live together.
Hmm.
And I think that play transcends a lot of the ways that we're having a hard time living together right now.
Huh.
In play, we communicate without words when we're playing. Conflict resolution happens in play in ways that it can't in conversation, or it often doesn't in conversation. Again, I brought up impulse control. Not just that we learn those as children, but as adults we practice those. Um, I live across the street. There's a playground across the street from me that has a lot of basketball courts, and I'm just like amazed at how um, it is rough. And these are very large adult men, and there's no fights, but there's yelling, right?
Uh-huh.
But everybody walks away fine, and there's conflict, and it is resolved because they want to keep playing,
Yeah.
in a way that if that type of conflict happens just like over a parking spot or in I don't know, all the places where we can wind up yelling at each other.
Right.
Um, there's not the incentive to resolve it that we have in play.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of ironic that you can get into a huge actual fight with someone over a parking spot, but then in a situation where it's a physically aggressive sport, in the basketball, or you're in a mosh pit, that can not cross the line to actual aggression or actual conflict because of the playful spirit.
I
You know,
think, yeah,
yeah, it
I
it
think
allows people to work together in a way that, sorry, go on, that makes
Yeah.
sense.
And I think to answer your question, that now, yeah, like I said, we're at a time where like we're having a hard time communicating in other ways. And in play, like the more that we can like, and even that if that means like a block party, right? Play doesn't have to mean that you're out, wrestling together. Maybe it's, different parades or holidays of things that people can come together and just be grounded in that we are all in it together.
Yeah, I find that with fun too. It just is a very unifying force. Like when you're
Mm-hmm.
having fun with someone, when you're playing with them and you're laughing together, that creates a bond that transcends a lot of your differences that might show up. Those people on the basketball court, like maybe they're very different off the basketball court. They get a
Yeah.
variety of like different religions or political views or whatever, and it doesn't matter because they're playing together, and then they see each other as more human because they've had that play experience, which I think
Yeah.
is really beautiful. I was reading your book and like tearing up multiple times.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, yeah,
I
just
mean, I
because,
say that's nice usually because it means that like it's moved you in some way that was meaningful. So that's always good.
not that you just want me to cry a lot. I
I
didn't
know.
get that
Just
sense from you. So, okay, I think we've established it's incredibly important. I mean, you also talk about it in the book as a release valve and a way for adults to gain sustenance. And I loved your quote. You wrote that being playful is critical for the well-being of both adults and children. Play is how we learn to be human, how we learn who we are, how we learn to fail, communicate, love, fight, rebel, desire, build, survive. At its best, play is life-affirming, soul-sustaining, and mind-expanding. A life devoid of play is detrimental to our psychological, emotional, and physical health. Could not agree with you more. It's a pretty great summation of when people are like, why does this matter? But I wanted to ask you more about specific ways you suggest that adults kind of break out of their own staid adult selves and become more playful and play more because it is really hard for adults. And I know you were
yeah.
talking earlier about one way to approach this is to really redefine what success looks like. So go through your
Hmm.
day and ask yourself, like you were saying, you're going for a walk with someone and you thought it was like a fitness hike and then they're going slowly and instead of getting annoyed at that, ask yourself,
Hmm.
wait, wasn't my goal also to catch up with this person I enjoy spending time with, and that shifts your mindset. But I'd love to have you talk more about suggestions you have when adults are like, I don't know how to do this.
Yeah. Um, well, there are kind of three things, which are the reframe success that I mentioned, which is kind of like ask yourself, what is the goal? What am I actually after here? Embrace possibility, which is kind of like the curiosity thing, right? So with
Hmm.
the hike as the example, embrace possibilities like, well, we don't really know where that trail goes, or maybe it's going to piddle out and not actually be a trail pretty soon, but let's just see. Let's see what happens. We don't know what we're going to find. Let's just try it, right?
Uh-huh.
Or even with certain ideas, embrace possibility might mean that maybe your partner or your teenager has an idea for what to make for dinner, and you're pretty sure it's going to be gross. But maybe there's something there. So if you embrace possibility and you all go into it together, then your teenager is going to be invested and everybody's going to figure out how to make this, peanut butter and fish sauce concoction delicious, right?
Redefine success.
Yeah, that's it. We redefine success. Yeah, by reframing success, you're like, well, the goal isn't that we have, the best dinner that we've ever eaten. The goal is that everybody's included and the teenager feels like their ideas are valid and seen.
Right.
And so and we're all going to do it together and we're going to bond and it's going to feel good, right? And then the third tenet is release judgment.
Oh, it's such a big one. Tell me more.
I think this is maybe the biggest one for adults or the hardest one for adults. We are our harshest critics. Well, I don't know, hopefully that's a tricky, I'll just leave it at that. We can be our harshest critics. And we likely had, quite a lot of us grew up with a lot of rules in our household. So we hear, like, don't do that. You're going to do it wrong. You're not going to be good at it. You're going to break it. Stop being silly, So there's a lot of, I call it there's like an adult voice and a play voice,
Uh-huh.
right? So our play voice might say, go roll down that hill or go lay in the sun or, go step on your friend's untied shoelace or something. And your adult voice, mine is a little bit mischievous.
I
My
was
play voice.
picking up on that. Yeah, I was like, don't make sure my shoelaces are tied if
I
we meet
know.
in person.
I am the youngest sibling.
Oh,
So I have younger sibling vibes still. But in releasing judgment, that also means trust that the people around you are not gonna judge you harshly for, going and laying in the sun or making the joke that wasn't really that funny, but you tried,
right.
or whatever playful, silly thing you want to do that your play voice is saying, do this thing, and your adult voice is like, all of the things we've heard throughout childhood. Don't dance. Nobody wants to see you dance. Nobody wants to hear you sing. You're not good at singing, right? And it's like, it's not about that. So
Mhm.
releasing judgment is a big one, and I think that's a first step for adults. And part of it is kind of being aware of your play and voice play voice, which is that kind of instinct that's saying, do the silly thing, sing along in the car, dance at the supermarket, brush your teeth with your left hand because it's weird. Whatever play instinct you might have.
Right.
And then when you hear that, release judgment and say like I'm safe, I can do this. Nobody's going to fire me for singing in line at the gas station. Embrace possibility. I don't know what's going to come of it, but maybe people will sing along, maybe it'll feel good. And,
Hmm.
reframe success. Is success that I get through the line in the most expeditious way and don't make eye contact with anybody? Or is success that like I do the thing that might make me feel better on my drive home?
Right, right. Or you have like a moment of connection with a stranger. You reminded me in your book and with that example of a time, I actually wrote about this for my Substack, but I was waiting in line. I was going tubing on the Delaware River. You
Ooh,
know,
fun.
I think so. You could
Yeah.
see bald eagles, but we were waiting on this like hot afternoon for the school bus that would take us with our tubes. And I forgot how the Macarena came up. You know, it
Oh,
does in
yeah.
situations like that. And I was like trying to remember all the moves for the Macarena. And I couldn't get through this particular spot. And then I had this kind of aha moment where I'm like, I'm surrounded by other women my age who came of age in the early 90s, right? And I'm like,
Yeah.
they know the Macarena. And so I
Yeah.
asked one of them, I feel like you would have enjoyed being on this line. And all of a sudden, two of us are trying to do the Macarena. And then another person sees what we're doing. They get involved. Someone pulls it up on their phone. And before long, like this experience of waiting online for a school bus, which took forever, turned into
Hmm.
a fun communal dance party, and the bus pulled up. And by that point, we'd kind of forgotten that we were annoyed that it had taken so long
Yeah.
because we found that moment of fun. And it also reminds me of something that came up again and again when I was talking with people about fun, which I think you definitely talk about as well, which is this idea of rebellion and about
Hmm.
breaking the rules of supposed, responsible adulthood, like just a little bit.
Yeah.
It's like, who says you can't do the Macarena while waiting for a tubing bus? Like,
Right. Who
nobody
says
said
you
that.
right. And who are you impressing by being too busy to look up from your phone on a Saturday?
Yeah, yeah.
There's this weird, I catch myself doing it too. I'll be like, oh, everybody's really busy. I should be busy. Like,
So
I'm
busy, so
waiting
busy.
for the subway. I need to be busy looking at my phone. Like, busy, busy. And it's like, no, how did when did it become a bragging right to like
Right. Yeah.
not get sleep, not have a weekend? Like, who wants that? Why is that what we're after? That's not fun.
That does not sound fun. That does not
No.
sound playful
Yeah,
or
so that's a
fun.
great example. Like, yeah, who said you're supposed to be serious while waiting in line for a tubing bus? You
Show me
know?
those rules. Show
Yeah,
me the
nobody did.
commandments written
It
down.
doesn't exist.
I think it does seem to me that a lot of it comes down to curiosity and like asking, like you're saying, like tune in to yourself in this moment and try to find that play voice, which might be very, very soft at this point for many
Yeah.
adults, right? Like, do you have any suggestions for how people can start to even find that voice again?
I think that play memories are really powerful.
Okay.
And that's kind of like just remember some part of your childhood play
Hmm.
and and tell somebody and see what it brings out in them and kind of start talk about play memories. And
What you
then
did, like I think you have
yeah,
this in
just
your
like
book. Yeah.
think back to a time, kind of close your eyes, think back to some part of your childhood. Maybe you think of like, okay, what about in this house? Like maybe if you moved, like maybe it's like your backyard, but usually just like think about a time you played. People will have things and when I'm with groups and I ask them to do this and then we kind of talk with each other and kind of share as a group what resonated or was there anything in common? What was some of the themes or overlaps in the memories? It is so often play that there were no adults around. There's rarely a toy or
Huh.
like a thing. And it's fairly often like the kids are alone, like they're in a fort under the stairs and they don't remember what they were doing, but they just remember like being there, and for what
Huh.
felt like hours, right? Or they're in the backyard with a hose making a waterfall, just like pointing the hose at things. or arranging a bunch of sticks, like making tree forts for hours. And people say, but what were you doing? It's like I was playing. Like playing is the thing that you're doing. It was nothing. I was do, but it was really important, right? That's
Yeah.
the like you remember how important it felt and how good it felt. I think that that'll help kind of like connect you to again, like I said, like that it's formative,
Yeah.
um and probably start to like spark some mem other instincts and memories that will come up. And again, it doesn't mean that you have to go collect sticks and make a stick fort or like a little fairy fort in the backyard. It might mean like your version of that now might be tinkering in a wood shop,
Hmm.
or arranging your house. I was talking to somebody who is an interior designer, and she was like, "Oh my God, I never realized like as a kid, all like the play memories she kept coming up with were all like arranging little things, like making a little house for the squirrel in her backyard
Oh
or
my God, my daughter, that's like her main
arranging. Yeah, and
pastime.
now she's an interior designer. I was like, "Of course you are." Like and
Right.
and now that's her play. Like she loves collecting things and arranging things and putting this with that and seeing how it changes the way a thing feels by moving it. So,
Well, yeah, that also
yeah,
suggests that we might already be playing in ways we don't realize we're playing, right? Like,
exactly.
which is important to, as a starting point, I would think, is like recognize how you're already playing.
Yeah, exactly. I'm a fan of all of the ways that adults play. It can be organized sports and video games or, going to happy hour. I think those are the most common, the things that come up when I talk to, like, how do you play as an adult? They think very literally about it. They're like,
Hmm.
well, I play, pickup football. I guess I go dancing with my friends, like going to the bar is kind of playing. Or they'll say, I have video games or I play Wordle on my phone. Um, and those are
Yeah,
great. They're
yeah.
play, but they're not free play.
I think it's interesting to think about the difference between free play and traditional play. I don't know what the right word is there, like organized play for adults. And like you're saying, neither is, it's not like organized play is not a helpful thing or a fun thing either. But I was just thinking, I mean, you bring up some of these examples in the book, but like, creating a ball, so creating a game with a ball and two friends, but not organized sports. Like just making up a game is free play, but going to play the basketball game, that's not free play. Or I was thinking in a
Yeah.
musical context, like I play a lot of music, and my favorite times of playing is just playing with friends with no defined outcome and no purpose, like not
Oh,
practicing
nice.
a performance, but just like, let's see what comes of this, you know?
Yeah.
And
Oh,
maybe
that's
that's
great. Going in with a playful mindset.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Playful mindset. I feel like you'd appreciate this recent, like my strongest recent play memory, or one of them. I was actually heartened that I have recent play memories. I was like, oh, good. I
Oh,
actually do feel
good.
grateful. But my husband and I organize a camp for friends every summer. And for listeners, they should know that Cass lived at a place she called Camp Fun for 10 years. That was like literally a camp. It was like, we clearly should be friends. But we organize a weekend every summer. And this summer we were playing a game that we made up, and it's called Two Balls for obvious reasons. It's like just take two balls
Uh-huh.
and then you throw them at someone as they try to jump in the pool and they try to
Oh,
catch the two
nice.
balls. That's the game,
Yeah.
and we played that for 3 hours.
Oh,
Adults
yeah.
and children just nonstop. And at the end of it, we're like, what just happened? It was 2:30, now it's 5:30. No waning of enthusiasm, just two balls over
Oh,
and over and over again.
beautiful.
And I was thinking of that when I was reading your book because I was like, oh, we free played. That's free play. Like, no,
Yeah.
we were just having a ton of fun catching two
Yeah. And
balls.
like kind of like improv, right? Like it
Yes.
was a yes and moment and people just
Yes.
took it and ran. I bet that it kind of evolved, right? Did you
It did
occasionally
evolve. Yes.
add new rules? Like maybe it gets a little bit boring. And this is also related to the saying is easy is boring. Like as
Uh-huh.
soon as something isn't challenging, we kind of like it starts to piddle out. That's when you got to add a new element and be like, okay, now only one foot on the thing when you jump off or like two they have to come from different direct right we like add more and more rules to it in
Yes, it was
order to
exactly
like
that.
keep making it challenging.
Yeah, this counselor is like, okay, well, now you need to line up in a row and you need to catch a ball and then toss it to the next person and then toss it to the next person and three balls caught. And
Yeah.
so that's so fun. But that touches on one thing, and we're totally running out of time because I said I could talk to you forever and we're gonna have to meet in person. But I did notice I was thinking about play, and like one reason that it's struck me that adults don't play is that even though play is this like pressure release and it feels so easy once you're in it, it actually takes work to set up
Mm,
the environment or get into the mindset for play. It's so much easier to just stay on your couch at home alone and scroll versus looking at, like you were just saying, look around your environment and see what there might be that invites you to play. I
yeah.
just think there's like an interesting, I don't know if it's an irony, but it's like setting up conditions for play does take a bit of work, but it's so worth it. And I don't know if you have any thoughts on that, but it seems especially true for adults where we're not in a play mindset a lot of the time.
Yeah. And I would say the setting up or the creating the conditions, it's not a stuff problem. It's
Mm,
not like you're if you have a bouncy couch and a tramp, you know what I mean?
I mean, it wouldn't hurt,
Like
but
we do. We have very low ceilings and a really bouncy couch, so the
oh,
10-year-old, it's like getting close at this point. Um, but I think what's hard about it is that it's about having some brave conversations.
hmm,
And this kind of relates to release judgment. In order to play, in particular free play, because free play touches who we are, um, we have to trust. And we have to trust the people around us and we have to trust ourselves. And so I think that actually the what's hard about playing for adults is just that is either having a conversation with somebody and saying like, "Hey, I'm gonna do something that seems a little bit weird. Like, do you want to do it with me?" You know?
like the play
And
invitation. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
And we in the book we kind of this kind of was coming up mostly when we were trying to figure out I kept coming up against and having conversations with people where they were saying if I have a couple drinks, then I can play.
yeah,
Um and I was like, okay, well what is it? And everybody has their own relationship to alcohol and substances, for better or for worse. But if there's like, what is it about, that lack of inhibition that facilitates play, and like, how can we get there without it?
right.
Like
Yeah,
without being a teetotaler, like there's got to be a way that we can access that like shedding of inhibitions without the couple of drinks off. Also because like I want to be playful in the morning and I'm not going to have a martini for
during the
breakfast.
workday. Yeah, exactly,
Yeah, like
exactly.
I want to be playful when I'm like driving 3 hours for, to go somewhere with the kids, and I'm not going to be,
Yeah.
smoking a doobie for that. So like how do I access like the trust or the, release of judgment
The
without those things?
vulnerability. Yeah,
And
yeah.
I like to frame things as practice. I have a new camp now.
Oh,
I have this new camp in the Catskills, that is significantly rougher than my other camp. But we were doing some flooring this weekend, and the long story short, I was really not making very many straight cuts accurately. And I kept calling them practice. I was like, well, that was the practice cut.
that's a good way.
Um,
That's a playful mindset right there. It's like who
yeah,
says
rather
floorboards
than
need to
like
be straight?
I am just really ruining every single plank we have. No, but practicing. Yep, this is a warm up.
Oh my God, that's really funny. I could talk to you all afternoon, but I know we need to wrap up. So, where can people find out more about you besides buying your book, Playful, out now?
My website is casholman.com with one S. And there's links to everything there. I'm on Instagram quite a bit, answering questions that have come up in the book, or since the book. And yeah, the abstract on Netflix is a beautiful documentary series. So season 2, episode 4, I'm on there.
So check all of those things out and make sure to get a copy of Cass's new book, Playful. I've been speaking with Cas Holman, and I wanted to just end with one last quote from you, which is a prompt that people can ask themselves. And you and Lydia wrote in the book, what might change if you told yourself, I am a person who plays?
Mm.
So I want to offer that to anyone listening. What might change if you told yourself, I am a person who plays? And with that, thank you so much, Cass. This is a true delight, and I really appreciate you making the time, and congratulations on the book.
Oh, thank you so much. Yeah, great to talk to you. I can't wait to play. We will definitely play in the
We will
future.
play. Yes, we will. All right.